how do we ensure that the dollar rotates inside of the Muslim community as much as possible before it goes out?
In the United States of America, the African American community, for every dollar that they spend, approximately 3 cents stays within their community. For the Jewish community, approximately 92 to 95 cents will stay in the community. So what that looks like is, if I need a barber, if I need a mechanic, if I need a driver, I'm looking for my own people. And this is why they're able to leverage their resources and their network so much to build their own selves up.
Two groups of people. One are the Muslim founders with the initiatives, and one are the Muslim investors, C-suite executives, physicians, anyone with a solid paycheck coming. Those two groups need to work together.
As you reach high net worth, you start focusing more on impact as opposed to your return on investment.
Philanthropy.
And that's when you start realizing, you know what, there's more to life than money.
Trump has just signed off on the 50-year mortgage.
People cannot afford houses. Before, it used to be 2.5 times your income. Now it's 6.7 times your income, and you still cannot find a decent house.
It is a complete game changer. Even though your monthly payments will be less on the $300,000 mortgage, in 30 years, you're paying $500,000 worth of interest. On a 50-year mortgage, you're now paying $800,000 plus on that 50-year mortgage. It's gone up by like 80%.
Almost 3x.
Now they're going to build more luxury homes. So who gets priced out? The middle class even more gets priced out.
Allahu Akbar.
Homes is the product of the banks and cars. If you remove those from the equation, banks don't have much to offer, but you're selling your future.
So what's the solution here?
I think that's where Sheikh Navaid comes in.
I mean, the solution is you have your and your right?
Or Bitcoin. Bitcoin or whatever investment it is appreciates faster than a house does. So it's basically about allocating your wealth.
Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Guys, welcome back to another episode of The Cave Podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss all things connected to Islam and money, Muslim economies, Muslim businesses. As you guys know, we have a network of 7 to 9 figure Muslim entrepreneurs, investors, and senior corporate executives. And we like to keep you guys up to date with regards to what's happening in the world and how you, as a Muslim, can benefit from that financially, economically, and of course, how to link that to your akhirah. So today, we have an amazing panel. Sheikh Navaid Aziz. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And we have Sheikh Muawiyah.
So
Just to give you guys a brief introduction in terms of the background of the panel, our guests, and then we'll dive into the topics. Ustad Muawiyah. So you were supposed to study in Oxford University. Allah barik. But decided to go to Medina instead.
scrap that from the video.
Don't worry, your mum won't see it.
Yeah, so I became Muslim in I think 1998.
MashaAllah.
There's a bit of ambiguity, it's 98, 97, but around about the time.
MashaAllah.
And I got into Medina about 2020.
MashaAllah.
2020,
yeah.
I was thinking about, I was retired. 2000, not 2000 or 2001. And then, it was a good moment because I just become Muslim, technically.
Mm-hmm.
I was learning about Islam and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just graduated from college. I took a year out. Well, not took a year out. I mean, I went to work. I didn't go to university. I wanted to get married. And then I applied to university and then forgot about it because you get on with life.
Mm-hmm.
And then got the waraqah, got the paperwork that I was accepted.
And then since then, took a keen interest in Islamic finances and specifically when it comes to Bitcoin and crypto generally, but Bitcoin specifically, Allah barik.
Well, the thing is that I think to be honest, I think my interest in Bitcoin was twofold. One, because of my hatred for interest, but from before Islam, even. That was one of my big gripes, even before Islam, that it's not allowed to do it, but yet it's everywhere. But Muslims don't do it. I think that kind of drew me to Islam anyway, in some ways, like the hijab and stuff. And then I was a geeky computer guy anyway. That was my thing from before I was even in puberty. I used to do my programming on a computer. So those two things kind of coalesced with. When I heard about digital currency, I'm like, great, let's do this. There was no kind of like, oh, this could be dodgy or no. I had full on like, let's do this. MashaAllah.
And now, Allah barik, Islamic governments and also like bodies of scholars consult with you with regards to Bitcoin and all those type of things.
I don't want to say like it wouldn't like that, but I have spoken to many people about Bitcoin at all levels. Like some are attached to the government or not. But yeah, I mean, it's because Bitcoin is a field. could another thing called Bitcoin itself a whole field, but Bitcoin is a thing that or an asset that people are slowly recognizing that it's not going to disappear. It's not going to evaporate into nothing. So what do you do with it? Do you accept it, or do you be hardline and reject it? Which some still do to this day. But I think slowly everyone's realizing, okay, look, it's not going anywhere. We might as well do something about it, get in there, or at least regulate it or know about it before.
You've done a lot of work in terms of clearing up the misconception in terms of, like, of course, there were some fatwa that were passed a few years ago. There was not really the greatest understanding of exactly the reality of what this is. And you've obviously helped work in that area and help clarify these things.
Yeah, because as you know from the Hukm Shari'i, the Qaida, sorry, Al-Hukm Shaykh far'an tasawwurihi.
Yeah.
So to understand something, or to apply a rule on something, you have to have a good understanding of what it is. Which is why if you analyze a lot of the fatwa against Bitcoin, you can even see in the way they describe it, they haven't understood what it is yet. And it's not their fault. It's not like it's a stab or a dig against the Sheikh or the Mashaykh who have that opinion. Because even computer specialists struggle to understand what Bitcoin is, because it did something that was never done before.
Can I interject over here?
Yeah, go.
It's a free-flowing conversation.
Yes, of course.
So isn't that part of the problem? Like, why are you giving a ruling on something that you do not have a proper conceptualization of?
No, when I say wrong conception is that it's not that they don't know what it is and then they're giving a ruling. Is that they thought they understood it, but it was misunderstood.
Yeah, but I think I'm just trying to highlight the problem. Like, from what I understand, the vast majority of the fatwa, they made no effort to speak to an expert on Bitcoin. And they're like, yeah, we read some paper and we're going to give a ruling on Bitcoin now.
No, I would agree, maybe some, but just to push back on that one, what has happened, and I think I have noticed that when I was digging into this mas'ala, because it has revealed a lot of things about how fatwa even works globally amongst different ulama, different madhahib. What tends to happen amongst scholars, I guess it's not just scholars, I guess it's just the industry as a whole, people, even non-Muslims, is that if you have some people who are trusted and they've spoken about it, it's common to trust their judgment. So, for example, some of the mashayikh, what they might do is they'll say to their tullah, their students,
so-and-so gave that fatwa.
give me, they'll say to their students, find me information about it, and then they'll listen to their students, describe it to them, and then based on what they've been told, they'll answer it.
Did Imam Ibn Uthaymin
Or, like, for example, what happened, there was a fatwa, one of the earliest fatwa about Bitcoin, against Bitcoin, I think it came from Turkey, and one from even, I think it was either Egypt or Palestine, or something like that, which was against it. So a lot of the ulama came later, just referenced it.
Yeah.
Same thing with fiat money. Fiat money, to this day, the ulama say fiat is permissible. Almost every single one of them points to the fatwa from 1970 something.
Yeah.
He actually made tawaqquf on that one, but there was a list of, there's a list of ulama who spoke about it.
Yeah.
Some made tawaqquf, and some said, yeah, all right, whatnot.
Tawaqquf meaning they refrain from
giving yes or no. They held back.
And I think that's a safer position. You don't understand something, you haven't done your research, do tawaqquf, man, until you figure it out.
But the thing is, I fully get what you're saying, but the only caveat I would say is, what happens to you if you thought you understood it? You were fully convinced this is how it is, and you answered, and then you realize, wait, actually, I don't understand it. So, like, for example,
That makes you at that point.
So, Abdurrahman al-Barrak, he did that.
Yes.
In his fatwa, he said, I thought it was this way, but after further tadabbur and looking at how other currencies are exactly the same, I realized I was mistaken.
Abdurrahman Nasr al-Barrak.
Yeah.
Really?
That's what he said in the fatwa, yeah.
So his fatwa shows the permissibility of Bitcoin.
Yes.
Now, yes.
Very nice.
Fatwa did it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
But that's massive. That's
But here's the caveat. Here's a funny one. I have a video on it actually as well. Even with it being saying permissible, if you actually read the fatwa, he still didn't understand it properly. He describes it as being X, Y, Z, and but that's not Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So I agree with your conclusion, but even the way you've understood it is still not what it is.
So let's come back to Imam Ibn Qayyim. So, right, half of fiqh is knowing the hukum shari'i, knowing the Islamic ruling. The other half is knowing the reality, right?
The reality of what it is, yeah.
Inshallah, just because I want to go to introducing Sheikh Navaid, I just want to mention that obviously the role that you've been playing here, Allah Barak, is helping to connect that gap, you know.
Yeah, that's why I spent all these years going deeper and deeper into the actual workings
of Bitcoin,
down to an actual code and the script and actually how transactions are working, everything about how Bitcoin works onto the code level, so that I want to be confident that if I want to say, yeah, it's permissible, and someone says to me, but how do you even know about Bitcoin? That's true. I mean, how do you know there's not a secret code in the thing which says... How do you know that what you're saying actually
You've
is
gone down, you've actually checked it.
I have to be able to do that. So that's why I try to do it.
Barakallah fi. And Sheikh Navaid, yourself, you've graduated from the Islamic University of Medina as well.
I have.
Allah barik, giving lectures all around the world. Recently, mashallah, tabarakallah, you've done a lot of work in the Islamic finance space.
Correct.
And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention, but you manage a waqf of around about $50 million.
I don't manage it, but I'm a part of a team that
You're part of a team that manages a waqf of $50 million, which is a waqf. How would you explain that to people that don't?
Let the Sheikh explain.
So this is the money, man. Which is, and naturally, anything related to money, I come to. Yeah, Sheikh.
So to simplify it, how do we make our organizations and institutions self-sustaining where they're not dependent on fundraising anymore? So the money that they have, they'll invest it strategically so it'll generate income for them so that they can use that money to now sustain their operation.
So this is like compounding sadaqah.
If you do it with that intention, yes.
Yes.
If you do it with that intention, yes.
Like this would probably be like the most leveraged or one of the most leveraged forms of sadaqah jariyah, ongoing charity.
It is one of those forms, yes. Okay. And that's why when you look at early Islam, a lot of it was based on this, right? Okay. Like there's that wonderful story of Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu when he bought the first well in Medina, right? And that well still exists and benefits people till this day. So that's why we call it a sadaqah jariyah and a waqf at the same time, right?
Amazing. Barakallah fi.
Which is really important especially for Western organizations that don't have a dawla or a government to help them support them.
Yeah.
Having the independence is important.
For sure. 100%.
And Sam, mashallah, regular panelist, barakallah fi, invited us into his home. Mashallah, tabarakallah. How's the private equity fund going?
Alhamdulillah, Sheikh. Going
good.
Alhamdulillah.
It's going good, huh?
Yes.
Allah barik. Barakallah fi. We call him the Mughal of real estate. He's got over $150 million of assets under management. He's a Mughal. He's a Mughal. So guys, look, today, inshallah, we've got some interesting topics. We're going to talk about the importance of wealth staying in the Muslim community. Right? On the back of the conversation we had yesterday, I think it'd be very good to talk about this on camera. Like, how do we ensure that the dollar rotates inside of the Muslim community as much as possible before it goes out, and what are the benefits of that? We'll talk about Islamic economic models, and I want to talk about the waqf model here in a bit more detail, because there's capitalism, then there's socialism or communism, the other extreme, and obviously Islam is neither, right? But then there are some beautiful things that we have, like the awqaf and zakat and staying away from riba, that allow you to kind of profit as much as possible without oppressing the others. We'll talk about it, inshallah, in a bit of detail. Trump has just, signed off on the 50-year mortgage.
He wants to.
He wants to. It's not confirmed?
And it's not confirmed. Okay, but he has let his intention know that's what he wants
Beautiful.
to do.
And we've been talking about Noon, right? Which is this delivery startup that's just been blowing up and is giving Amazon a run for their money here in the region. Recently, we've got a new competitor that's come in, Keto. And it's actually killed off Shagardi in Saudi Arabia.
A local company.
Yeah, local company. It just murdered it, bro. So we're going to talk about that and some of the Islamic implications of that type of cutthroat, business model. I actually have some questions in that regard. We'll talk about what's new in the Bitcoin world and how we'll talk about endowments, how to kind of choose projects to actually invest in, and how investors can help founders, like what type of traits to look for in a founder. So we'll try and get through as many of these as possible. I think we'll have a very interesting conversation, inshallah. So first and foremost, we're talking about this yesterday, right? The importance of the dollar staying in the hands of the Muslims. Why is that important? Can you explain that to Sheikh?
For sure. So once you create an ecosystem, the more money that is rotated in the ecosystem, the more that ecosystem becomes affluent. And that's what we're trying to do. Right? So to Sheikh Muawiyah's point that we want independence and we want to be able to create autonomy for ourselves. So the example that we always give, that there's been a lot of studies done in the United States of America. One of the poorest communities is the African-American community. One of the most affluent communities is the Jewish community. And if you look at the way they spend their money, the African-American community, for every dollar that they spend, approximately 3 cents stays within their community. For the Jewish community, approximately 92 to 95 cents will stay in the community. So what that looks like is if I need a barber, if I need a mechanic, if I need a driver, I'm looking for my own people. And then I support to them. But this was pointed out yesterday with the brother we were with. Within the Jewish community, they say, look, this first time around and the second time around, I will help you. By the third time around, don't expect a handout. You need to pick up your game and make sure that you have a cheaper price and a better product than the other communities out there. That's the only way this is going to work.
So they give them runway?
Yes, they give them runway. They're like, look, I'll help you out the first 2 times, but by the 3rd time, you got to pick up your game. And this is why they're able to leverage their resources and their network so much to build their own selves up. And then when
they get the initial cash flow.
Yeah.
But that gives them enough runway to then be able to improve the product.
Yes. And even if they can't improve it themselves, they figure out who runs it well and then buy them out and make it their own, right? And that's what you want to do eventually. And that way, as you build your own community up, we're hoping we have our own autonomy and we can use it for whatever purposes we want at that time.
And I think the point that you mentioned yesterday was one of yourselves, you mentioned it, that like this also helps Muslims, right? Because Muslims are generally speaking going to be shunned away from others. They're going to have less opportunities from others.
For sure. We're discriminated against in the Western countries. Yeah.
But this now you're actually prioritizing your own people, which is thus, it's kind of just like priming the pump and injecting cash flow into your own people, which thus benefits economically. Now, if that happens at a massive scale, then of course it makes the Muslims a lot better off. Sam, how would this work on a much larger model, right? Like, for example, going to the barber, going to the Muslim barber, the Muslim grocer, and all of these things. I get that, right? Alam barak. On a local level, this might help. But what about now, for example, like we want institutional wealth, right? So what could we start doing? Like what are the mechanisms that we deploy to kind of have the wealth move in amongst our own people, but at institutional level?
I think, Sheikh, we had a brief discussion with the Sheikh. Basically, I see as 2 groups of people. One are the Muslim founders with the ideas, with the initiatives, and one are the Muslim investors. Okay. And those could be C-suite executives, physicians, IT engineers, anyone with a solid paycheck coming at the end of the week, at the end of the month. They have surplus remaining. And I think those 2 groups need to work together. Many of the times, investor groups are investing not in Muslim founders, but they're going out of their way and investing in other technologies and whatnot. The same ones are there provided by Muslim founders. But they don't know. It's not that they don't have the intention, but actually there is no platform, there is no system for them to know, okay, so these are the Muslim founders, these are the ideas, because they want to be angel investors, and angel investors for the audience, basically it's not professional, it's not venture capitalist, basically 20K check, 25K check to help out.
But isn't that risky? The thing about this that always kind of stresses me out, right, is like, because I've seen founders and some of them are just trash, right?
Yeah, that's why we need to know what are the traits to look for in a founder. Somebody could have a great idea, but not the discipline, the resilience, the agility of a founder. Not anything. There's no training. And of course, we can't invest.
So if we just take a step back, what's the mindset of this investor? He's looking for a return in how many years? And what type of return is he looking for? And what are the risks? And then what does he look for? What type of opportunity in what type of founder?
So there are many different profiles of investors, right? And what I call, like when we train our agents, so there are investors who are in the highest category. Basically, they have abundance of wealth, mashallah, Muslim investors. And we have many of them, investing in our projects. So those type of investors, they have funds allocated for different types of causes. Okay. So it's not always like maximizing my ROI in the shortest amount of time. They would invest a portion looking for those type of investments. They would invest a portion in endowments that actually have impact for the next centuries. And they would also invest smaller checks to support those founders, like angel investors. They'll put 25K with this guy, 25K. So let's say they have 500,000 allocated that I'm going to put 25K as these opportunities come. So these investors, they're interested in everything, but they have different allocation for different categories.
One of the things I remember reading, and Sam, maybe you can comment on this, is that with regards to your net worth, you'll see low net worth and mid net worth people, their first priority is return on investment. But as you reach high net worth, you start focusing more on impact as opposed to your return on investment.
Philanthropy.
And that's when you start realizing, there's more to life than money. And once you come to that realization, you got to make the biggest amount of impact in the shortest amount of time that you can.
I mean, I guess maybe the perspective on that, or maybe thinking about the psychology of why that is to do with anxiety. I think they call it financial anxiety. If you are, let's say you have £1 million, which sounds like a lot when you were young, £1 million, much, you're a millionaire.
Yeah.
But if you invest like, let's say 100K in a project, that's 1/10 of your wealth.
That's gone. Yeah.
So you're not thinking, okay, how long would I survive or what I have left? So I make different decisions. So return on investment is important because I need to think about what myself priority. Whereas if you have obscene amounts of money, whereby that 100K is like not even a fraction of a percentage,
Yeah.
then you can be more relaxed because you don't have that anxiety.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's and just to conclude on that one point here, that actually someone mentioned that's one of the reasons why people who are actually poor or struggling financially, why they make very different decisions than someone who has money, because they're worrying about their bills. They haven't got time to be thinking about Bitcoin or buying investments or stocks.
Of course.
Bro, I need to pay. When am I getting dinner today? When am I paying for stuff? So they're not. So their mindset is, like I said, financial insecurity and anxiety. That makes different decisions.
And now we understand why the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min al-kufri wal-faqr. And the relationship between the two. Because if you're poor, you're compromised, man. You're completely compromised. Yeah.
It seems, that because we were speaking with a brother yesterday, he mentioned that because he's in this space, right? He's a VC, invests in a lot of tech startups. He was saying that when it comes to the non-Muslims, they've been doing this at such a level and at such a rate that they're about to reach escape velocity. The way he explained it was, you might do a better job explaining that than me, but it's like when a rocket is going so fast that it's not even going to be possible to catch up with it now, right? It's about to escape the rate, even the possibility of you being able to catch up with it. So I think it's now important more than ever that we start just finding these opportunities amongst Muslim founders and seeding them with capital. But you said it's hard to come across them. Most people don't know that they exist, right?
There has to be a central platform that brings them together, Sheikh. I feel like we're missing that.
So right now, this is happening in our network. This is one of the things that blew my mind, right? I was coming to Sam, kind of confused and maybe even a bit like, wait, do we have a responsibility? I was like, I just come to him laughing, like in confusion. Brothers just throwing money at other brothers. And it makes sense why they're doing it, because they're Muslims, they trust them.
Yes.
Of course they're doing their due diligence. I called some brother and said, I just heard you gave 100K to so-and-so. Did you do your due diligence? Oh yeah, absolutely. I always do my due diligence. But the fact of the matter is that it's just circulating amongst the brothers because they realize, okay, cool, these are our people. We're aligned on the same objective. And now that money's flowing, but how do we do it at a bigger scale?
I think we need to institutionalize it, meaning we need to make it a regulated fund. And there has to be, for example, if the cave has its own fund, and there are investment committees, then all the brothers that have deals, they have to go through those investment committees, present in front of those investment committees, and investment committees like, okay, so there has to be different sectors, like real estate investment committee, this, that, everything. The experts are in the committee, sitting the chairing the committee. And once they look at it, okay, this deal is something we can put on our fund or like list it on our fund. And then the cave members or even outside people can invest on those. But I think it has to be that, because I have seen also some investors, mashallah, they are great at what they do, but they're not great at investing. They have never invested before.
100%.
And I have a lot of physician clients like that. Allahumma barik, like they're making $200,000, $300,000 a month. Allahumma barik, with few surgeries, right? But they're not financially savvy at all. And then they could be the victims and they could have like bad taste in their mouth. And it has happened in our communities where they have supported with good intention, let's say Muslim founders, but they were completely burned. Like this guy completely just took off, bankrupted, did not put his due diligence. There's always risk in investments, but actually did not put his hard work. Then they're like, man, these Muslims, like they don't know what they're doing. I'll just go about my day. So there has to be like scrutiny from both sides and a trusted platform where basically you could say the cave has gone through their deals, the investment committee. Still you do your due diligence, but at least we have vetted the founder. He's not going to give up in near-death situations, because you're going to face the near-death situations very soon for your company. He's just not going to go to sleep and stop picking up people's call, because now you have to have a tough conversation. And subhanAllah, the last point, some founders are just like, don't even have that muscle, which is like the very beginning. Like bad news, you have to like pick up the call, and they don't know how to share the bad news. And they crumble, they basically, they just disappear. They go off the grid just because they have to share bad news. So there's so many things, Sheikh, so many things.
Barakallah fi. Do you want to add something to that?
No, I think it's a fair point.
Barakallah fi. Beautiful. Okay. I think these kind of conversations are very important, like, because we're talking about it right now, but we might have sparked something in someone's head. I just want to say, subhanAllah, I was going to mention it yesterday, but I was just so, taken aback by the conversation. I was just listening to it with so much intent that I didn't even mention it. So subhanAllah, there was like, with another brother who's in the Bitcoin space, Sheikh Muawiyah, and then Sheikh Navaid was there. And the question you asked about, hey, can we make a halal version of a Bitcoin treasury? Right? And the conversation that took place, I was like, wow, what an act of ibadah, man.
That's fine.
It's like one act of ibadah. Like real problems exist in the ummah where riba is involved, and we need to look out for the masalih, like the benefits of the Muslims. And this is an area of expertise that is like 0.01% people actually have amongst the Muslims.
Yeah.
Here we have a person who studied this from a Shariah perspective, right? And you understand the actual, you got another guy who's an investor in that space. And then you've come and said, wait, how can we use the resources that we have in front of us right now and find a solution for the Muslims? And then that conversation, the back and forth, it increased my iman watching you guys, wallahi.
Allahu Akbar.
No, wallahi, honestly, I was like, wow, like, we need more of this. We need more of this. Barakallah feek.
And I think, look, the discussions, they will take place, but now we also need people to take action and run with that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on the back of that discussion, I called Sam on the way home and I was like, we need...
He was very excited.
Yeah, I was like, we need to make... We need to formalize this into an actual fund.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
My point is that it's happening, and then hopefully someone's going to hear this.
Yeah.
Who we may never meet till the day of judgment.
Yes.
But they've taken something from this and they're going to run with it, inshallah. So, barakallah feek. Let's move on to Trump, man. So do you think he's gonna be able to get this 50-year mortgage through? And what's the thinking behind it? And then I'm going to look at the Islamic implications of this.
Sheikh, you want to go first?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Bismillah. So basically, Trump is facing there's many issues, but one of the issues is affordability. There's no affordability, right? For houses. People cannot afford houses. Before it used to be 2.5 times your income. Now it's 6.7 times your income, and you still cannot find a decent house. So it's a major problem. So as a president, he has many options. Okay, these are the options. These are the options. What can we do, right? Now, he has a gentleman named, his last name is Pulte, and they're basically the largest builders family. Yeah. They're a publicly listed company.
He's kind of managing Fannie Mac and Freddie Mac.
Oh, mashallah, he looked into that. So he basically appointed him as one of the board members of Fannie Mae recently. Okay. So I'm just putting that as so you guys it will make sense, inshallah, why he's trying to make this decision now. So now Trump is looking at how can we make homes more affordable? There are many options. One option in his mind is, okay, if we can somehow lower the mortgage payments for people without lowering the interest rate, because the interest rate is not going anywhere, right? It's staying where it should be now, because you cannot just keep kicking the can down the road, so it has to be up.
But I think just to expand on that point, the reason why they can't lower the interest rate is because then they'll increase the inflation.
Yes.
And so they're fighting like two battles at the same time, right?
Yep.
So as interest rates go down, inflation goes up.
So can you explain this for a person who just doesn't understand these concepts?
Right.
Like what's the relation? What's the inverse relationship here?
Like Western economy is purely based on debt. So the cheaper debt becomes, the more debt people take. And the more the economy grows as a result of people taking that debt because they're now spending more.
So the lower the interest rate.
Exactly. So they lower the rate, people start borrowing more, economy grows. They increase the interest rate, people start borrowing less, this shrinks the economy. And thus it'll shrink the inflation as well.
Because there's less money moving around, less production,
exactly.
so on and so forth.
So now you want to keep inflation low, but you also want to keep interest payments low. And this is where I was going to say that this is such a deception. Because the United States of America, I believe, is the only country in the world, and I could be wrong on this, but at least the one that I know, that has a 30-year mortgage. No other country has a 30-year mortgage. Now that they're introducing the 50-year mortgage, it is a complete game changer. Because even though your monthly payments will be less, the overall amount of interest that you're paying is drastically more.
It's almost doubled.
Almost doubled.
So gone up by a third.
Hear this out. On the $300,000 mortgage, in 30 years, you're paying $500,000 worth of interest. On a 50-year mortgage, on $300,000, you're now paying $800,000 plus on that 50-year mortgage. It's gone up by like 80%.
The riba is, so the overall riba is almost 3x. The overall riba is almost 3x.
3x, yeah.
Sheikh, just on a 30-year mortgage, to pay 20% towards the principal takes 12 years. On a current interest rate, 6.5%.
Yeah.
Okay. It takes 12 years. On 50 years, it will take 27 years.
So 27, you're just paying riba?
No, 27 years is to buy down 20% of the principal. You still have to buy down 100%.
Yes,
but just to buy down 20% is almost taking you half of the term, the 50 years. So which means is majority, the way the amortization works, the majority is going towards interest in the beginning, but more so now because the debt term is much longer. So the interest front loading is much higher.
Yeah.
So is the plan here for them to just make Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae more rich and these type of institutions more rich, or is it actually to help people?
So few angles. Do you want to go, Shaf?
Look, bro, I think it's very simple.
Yeah.
The ultimate goal is always to make the richer and the poor. We need people to stay poor.
It's called a K-shaped economy.
Yeah.
Explain that.
K-shaped as in the poor get poorer, rich get richer.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Okay.
Another point, Shah, look, if I'm a builder, I wouldn't do that, but how would builders think?
Mm-hmm.
They don't build houses based on what can people afford as the price of the house. They build houses based on what can people afford as monthly payment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mortgage payment, because they know everybody's going to finance. So whatever mortgage payment they can afford, they reverse engineer based on that. They build the houses, the price point. Okay. Now people can afford larger homes, larger price point because the payment is lower.
Mm-hmm.
You're following, Sheikh? So what they're going to do now, it's the reverse of what it's trying to achieve, because now they're going to build more luxury homes that can sell for higher prices. Because now they know with $3,000 monthly payment, before you were able to afford, let's say, a $500,000 house, and we're just throwing these numbers. Now, the same $300,000 house, you can afford an $800,000 house. So the builder's going to build an $800,000 house. So who gets priced out? The middle class even more gets priced out.
Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar.
You have to remember, by the way, that we're dealing with riba as the driving force of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
And the only real way, not the only real way, but the way to maximize your income from riba is by having a large asset to borrow for, which is why homes is the tool or the product of the banks, or at least it's become that. Meaning that if I was to do, if I was to, for example, give you a credit card that can do your monthly shop, the interest I'll make on that monthly shop is just
not a
monthly shop. That's not much.
Yeah.
I mean, over time it'll add up. But I want to lock you in for a large sum
For a long period of
for a
time.
long period of time. So the only real products, there's only two products you can do that with: property and cars. Those are the two main products. If you remove those from the equation, banks don't have much to offer. Why do you need a bank for? You don't really need it. So that's the product or the asset of the banks, and that's why. And you have to remember that the way these contracts are structured, when you give a mortgage, that money that was given to you is freshly minted money. That's very important. People always think that
They just printed
They just printed it.
it didn't
give you
exist.
that
Yeah,
loan.
it didn't exist.
It did
before.
not exist till you took the loan. Yeah.
That's how money is created. So the way, I mean, the sleight of hand, the trickery is, the accounting trickery is, imagine you have a balance sheet between you and the bank and you got zero. Yeah? So there's zero. They owe you nothing, you owe them nothing. You go to get a loan. When they give you, say, 100 quid, or for the Americans, $100, or you're Canadian. Same thing, $100. $100.
Yeah.
Have you created money out of thin air? Well, not really, because they've also have a $100 liability. So the asset and liability, if you cancel each other out, you're still at zero. So that's a trickery. That although you have $100 on that thing, they also have $100 on the balance sheet in negative. So that's how you manage to, on the books, not really invent money, because counterfeiting is not allowed.
Yeah.
But it's not really counterfeiting because
You're balancing the balance sheet. Yeah.
So it's almost like you've drawn $100 from the future.
Yep.
And they're giving it to you now. So it's not really made out of thin air, but it kind of is because it's from the future.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, it's basically what's happening here, which is, I think the key point, which back to your question, is that you're selling your future. And Trump is not selling more of your future.
So that's what I was going to say, right? So this is because one of the things that we're seeing right now is that, at least in America, the current generation, for the first time, is going to be poorer than their parents, right?
I don't think it's for the first time. It's just a continuous. Continuous.
As in over the last 60 odd years?
Yeah.
Or for the first time in 100 years?
Yeah, post-World War II.
Post-World War II.
They had the boomers where it first began.
Exactly.
All the Ponzi.
And this is where it's just starting to, the house of cards is starting to collapse. But I'm saying with this is just going to desecrate the next generation
Even
to come
further.
even more, right?
110%.
Yeah.
The house of cards is going to fall on them. They're literally going to be born and it's collapsing on them.
So you mentioned that was a Ponzi. That's a key word. One of the characteristics of a Ponzi is it's like a flywheel. You can't, the moment you start to slow down, the wheels will fall off the car.
Yeah.
You just need to go faster and faster and faster just to keep on going.
Yep.
So at the beginning, they were able, like I said, you mentioned they were able to just buy a house. If you was to save up all your wages, everything, within 2 to 3 years, you could buy the whole house back in the 60s.
Yep.
Now, if it will take you 10 years, you still haven't got enough to save up everything. That's just 10 years of, imagine living in your parents' house, 10 years grafting all day long. They didn't spend a penny, not even on public transport. He just walks to work every back. And after 10 years, you still can't buy a house. That's how crazy it's got now. Because the house is a guarantee for the loan as well. So imagine what happens if the value of the house goes lower than your debt. What happens?
Underwater.
Yeah.
We call it negative equity.
Yes. Yeah. Negative equity.
So therefore, they cannot, by design, make houses more affordable.
Yeah.
They can't bring the price down. It's not possible.
Just quickly on that note, if basically Sheikh mentioned, if the house price goes under the mortgage amount, now, because you're buying down principal at such a slow rate, if 50-year mortgage was to take in effect, even a slighter movement of the market, you're underwater.
Yeah.
Because you're not buying down your principal as fast. Like to buy 20% of your principal in 30 years takes 12 years, but for the same principal, it's taking you 27 years. So the market drops by 10, 15%, you're in the edge already because it's taking you 27% to buy.
Explain that one more time, sorry.
So basically,
So I'm just speaking on behalf of the people.
Of course.
Because you know what it is? I feel like so much of this topic is misunderstood because of how cryptic the language is.
Of course.
It's hard to understand. So,
So
let's by design.
Let's break it down. So if I find a house, $1 million, right? And typically how it works is 80-20 typically. 20% you're putting your down payment.
Yes.
80% you're borrowing from the bank, right? Okay. Now out of that 80%, you're paying monthly payment towards that 80%. Your monthly payment is going towards principal and interest.
Okay.
The principal is going towards that 80% to buy it down to zero.
Yes.
So one day you own the whole house. And portion is going to the interest. The portion that goes to the interest is front loaded. So on a 30-year mortgage, for 17 years, you pay more towards the interest.
Than the principal.
Yeah, than the principal, because your monthly payment stays fixed. That's the fixed mortgage. If it's $3,000, for 17 years, you're paying more towards the interest for a 30-year. I don't know for how long in 50 year. But what I was saying is, even to buy down 20% of your principal on a 30-year mortgage, it takes 12 years. Okay, it takes 12 years to buy down 20% of your principal. On a 50-year mortgage, it will take you 27 years to buy down your principal. Okay, so you're not actually owning the house. So if the market changes, market shifts, the house price drops, you're more at risk for negative equity. In the minus.
Okay.
Because you're not buying down principal at a rapid pace like you were.
And let's not forget that one of the, like you said about the front loading of the interest payments, one of the strategies of some banks is that they actually want your deposit. They want you to foreclose so they can take the house and get your deposit. So it's almost like you're of course they're always they're not going to lose. It's not that they're going to lose. I mean you technically could, but it's just that they don't structure it in a way whereby they would actually lose.
So what's the solution here?
I think that's where Sheikh Navaid comes in.
I mean, the solution is you have your Murabaha contracts and your Musharaka contracts, right?
For Bitcoin.
Okay. I mean, Bitcoin, as how would Bitcoin help you buy a house? Let's go. Let's hear that.
So people ask me, should I get a mortgage? I said, no, don't get a mortgage. I said, but where am I going to live? I'm going to have to rent. I'm going to pay someone else's mortgage. I said, that'll be fine.
Yeah.
But the reason why I'm saying don't get a mortgage is because, number one, to get a mortgage, you need to have a deposit.
Yeah.
Down payment. And that's all going towards an asset. That's not helping you get the house. That's just
blocking the money.
Maybe you could put that money elsewhere that has better growth than a house. Maybe that deposit you could dump it to Bitcoin, within 4 to 8 years, you have the full amount to buy the house. So rather than 50 years, you have the house in 8 years. Because Bitcoin or stocks or whatever investment it is, appreciates faster than a house does. So it's basically about allocating your wealth better. So
and then you just come back and buy the house cash, you're saying?
Yeah, so put it this way, or word another way. A mortgage is $1,000 a month. Rent is $1,000 a month. They're both the same.
Yeah. So
but it's about what do you do with the other money that you can do better.
So the term for this is called cost of capital, right?
Yes.
The cost of capital. And this is, you even have to step back. Is your primary residence an asset or liability, right? And this is where a lot of money managers, they're like, it's not an asset, man. It is a liability because it drains out your maintenance, it drains out your taxes, it drains out your insurances. You're just constantly paying for it. Yes, you will have appreciation of value, but that appreciation of value is more likely the diminishing power of the dollar as opposed to the value of the house actually going up, except in very few cases. So the cost of capital argument is fair, that if you were to invest in Bitcoin as opposed to purchasing your house, the return on capital will be higher on Bitcoin than the vast majority of houses that you purchase.
But that's every 4 years, right?
No, it could be year on year. Bitcoin returns about 39%. In the last 5 years, it's been 39%. Year on year.
But that's just one cycle, though. It's
if you average it out.
If you average it out, that's it.
Okay.
The real estate market is not like that, except in certain cities where it just goes berserk. But with that being said, Bitcoin may help you facilitate purchasing your first house in the future, but it doesn't solve the problem for someone that wants to buy the house right here, right now. That's where they need the Murabaha or the Musharaka contract. Now, why is that better? Because you're eliminating the riba from it.
Let's go into this, right? Sure. Explain, what is Murabaha? What is Musharaka?
So the Murabaha is you have a buyer and a seller.
Mm-hmm.
A buyer buys the product, inflates the price, and sells it back to you on installments.
Okay.
That is what Murabaha is. So imagine we have brother Mustafa over here on this table. He comes to you and says, Imran, I don't have the money to buy a house. I know that you do, mashallah, tabarakallah.
Yeah.
Can we come out with a financial arrangement where I can purchase this house from you? So you go look at this house. The house is $1 million. You buy it for $1 million and you say, Mustafa, I will hook you up. I'll buy the house for $1 million. And you have to have this disclosure. You have to know the amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to sell it back to you for 1.25 million over a period of, and you can choose the amount, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years, whatever. And then we break it down into installments and he pays you back.
So Murabaha
as long as those two contracts not connected.
Yes.
So
two contracts shouldn't be connected.
He buys it. He tells you
you're going to buy it.
So I buy it. I tell you what the profit is.
Yeah.
And that's where the Murabaha comes, right? That I'm telling you how much I paid for it plus the profit on top, and you give it back to me.
And they agree to it. Yes.
So is this possible? Like, how do we actualize this type of contract now in the real world?
So again, this is a real life case that we worked on in the province that I live in Alberta. So there's a credit union that has taken this responsibility upon themselves.
Okay.
But it's still not 100% Sharia compliant, and I'll explain why. So what they've done is you come to them, you tell them which house you want to buy or you're interested in, they buy the house and they sell it to you, and it's a 25-year fixed term. Now, the problem is you cannot expedite your payments. So, for example, the 1 year I do really well and I have $10,000 extra cash. They will not accept your $10,000 extra cash.
Why is that?
Because they're going to lose out on, they want the duration, right? That's their money maker, consistent money coming in, right?
Cash flow.
And just keeping you in a deathlock, bro. That's what it is.
No, but there's no riba.
There's no riba, but they're not letting you get out of your deathlock, your death grip.
And that's where the implementation.
Yeah, that's where the problem becomes that if I have a debt, I should be allowed to pay it off.
Yeah, they want to force you to remain.
Yes.
Are the contracts separate though? This because this is the issue that I've come across.
Yeah. So the first one they call like a verbal promise or verbal intent. It's not a contract in of itself, right? So, and this could be a trickery in the Sharia. It could be considered a hila. We're going to leave that aside, but there is no official contract that will take place. That is correct.
Okay.
Right? And that's how they're getting around it.
So is there a way to do this where it is 100% Sharia compliant?
In a debt-based economy? No.
So what does, like, for example, Rajahi Bank do? Like, I heard they I don't know if they still do this, but when it came to car finance, like, they would go and buy the car.
So just to stop you
there,
would
take the risk.
Yeah.
And then they would basically sell it off in taqseed, as in
that's Murabaha right there. Yeah.
So is there not something like that we could do?
So the ultimate problem you'll always have, and this is something you cannot escape, is that the duration is the problem. Meaning that if I'm locking up capital in an asset and I'm giving you 30 years to pay it off, I have to earn from you more than I'm already losing on that capital locked in.
Yeah. Remember the cost of capital? Same thing applies over here, right?
So if I'm charging you, if I'm going to say I'm going to have a markup of 1%, but inflation is 5%, I'm losing 4%. So therefore, why would I do it?
Yeah. And then not only that, as you're running a business, you have to be able to approximate how much income I have bringing in. So that's why over a 30-year period, I need that certainty that I'll have income coming in for 30 years and you're not just going to get out of it, right? Now, the second part of this equation is if I allow you to get out of your contract early, what does that do to my profit rate, allowing you to come out early? Because I can't charge you the same profit rate for 30 years as I would for 10 years, right? Right? So this is a part of the other problem they're trying to solve, is that we've already agreed on a profit rate for 30 years. Now, if you want to come and pay it off in 10 years...
Profit should be higher. The rate of profit will be higher.
No, it should be lower because I can't charge... Because generally,
because I paid it off faster.
Exactly,
Yes,
paid
yes,
off
yes,
faster,
yes.
right? So they're basically using a ribawi principle that in delay for time, you're paying more money.
Extra.
And this is the healer,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because
Yeah.
if it was proper Sharia compliant, then the surah, the actual model would be, here, bruv, I'm selling you this car for $1,000. You can't afford it right now. So let me just say 1,200 over every month you pay X amount and then we're done with it. Fine, that's cool. I've agreed on that total principle. I just agreed it over time. So if you pay me early or late, it should be the same because we've agreed on a full amount.
Yeah.
But the moment you say, oh, I should be paying less if it's quicker or more if it's or longer, that's revealing
That's a riba.
that it's time-based riba. It's a I'm earning based on
What about the argument here, that let's just say it takes me 10 years to pay this off. I've given you a loan, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to charge you riba. I've given you a loan to buy a house. It's
But
gonna
hold on. See, this is the problem over here.
Yeah.
What is your commodity? Is it the house or is it the money?
Let's just say it's the money.
If it's the money, then you can't
Then
charge
you
anything
can't.
extra.
Then you
It
can't-
has to be
you
hand in hand, amount for amount.
You can't monetize.
Just humor me for a second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I give you 100K.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you for more back. I don't want riba on it. But after 10 years, when you give it back to me, inflation,
It's
Has-
worth less
That's
now.
cool.
Yeah.
It's
it's killed the purchasing power of this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then don't I then have I'm not sure
have a right to ask for the difference.
not necessarily the difference. I can kind of understand why they want to prolong their
Or another
But
gaining
this is the
profit-
problem
the
over
profit
here.
gain.
This is the problem over here.
And I'm not
where
saying it's permissible, by the
the
way.
hila
Yeah.
is that we're trying to take a loan and monetize it and call it
Something
your
I don't know what
product,
it is,
right?
Yeah.
It can't be a hila. It has to be a genuine transaction over here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The commodity that is being bought and sold is always a product or service. It can't be money. It can't be currency within of itself.
And
Okay.
that's
Right?
one of the issues you have to recognize about the world we live in today is a fiat-based world.
Yeah, it's commoditized money
And
itself.
fiat
Yeah.
by design is being constructed to lose value over time.
Yeah.
Which incentivizes the whole debt. It's like
Mm.
it's like saying I
The
don't
only way
live
to get back the value is to charge more.
and what I mean by that is I don't want to live in I don't want to deal with riba. I don't want to engage in riba. But the game has been rigged to be a riba game. It's like I don't know run, but bruv, you have to run, otherwise you'll die. So, whereas if I flip the script, and I had a currency which was deflationary, as in it increased in value over time.
Yeah.
Therefore, if I lent you money, I said give me back the same exact amount 10 years time,
Like Bitcoin.
I'm cool.
Because you've made money now.
You've made money now.
Well, I'm purchasing power.
I've
at the
increased
very
the
least.
purchasing power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing is, even in that world, if you gave me back just slightly less, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because I haven't actually effectively lost. I'm saying psychologically speaking,
Yeah.
even when it comes to Muslims struggle to discuss honestly about riba and how they feel about it. Because some people try to make excuses or not. I don't blame them 100% because they're in a world where you kind of have to. I mean, bro, if you're telling me to lend money that when I get back 10 years time, it's worth like half of what it is.
So there's two things over here. I think even when you look at Islamic contracts, you have uqud al-ribh and uqud al-rifq, right? The uqud al-ribh is the intent behind it is open, you're trying to make profit.
Yeah.
Uqud al-rifq, the intent behind it is generosity and kindness,
Yeah.
right?
Tabarru'at.
And loans are meant to be uqud al-rifq.
Yes.
You're not meant to make money off of it.
Yes.
In exchange, whatever you give as a loan, you get half of it in sadaqah, right? As per the hadith of the Prophet
Sallallahu alaihi
ﷺ,
wasallam.
right? So you're getting a reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So yes, you may lose to inflation, but you're gaining so much more on
Ajaz.
the opposite
Allahu
side.
Akbar.
But that still does not justify the system that we live in. Ideally, to his point, we should have a deflationary mechanism within the currencies that we deal with.
So begs the question then, what is the solution then? Like how do people...
If I may add, Sheikh, I think the solution we know, but in an ideal situation where it doesn't work because of the cost of capital point Sheikh mentioned. So for example, if it's a $1 million house, just to make the math easy,
Yeah.
and I'll buy the house for you for $1 million, and let's say we agree, in 5 years, you buy the house back from me. So as an investor, the way investor is thinking, okay, 5 years, my money is tied in there. This is purely for making profit. I'm buying the house. I'm going to sell it back to him. So what's the price I should sell it back for him for? So every year, the inflation is, let's say, 5%. Okay. So already it should be more than 5%. Okay.
Yeah.
Then I say, okay, typically Warren Buffett rule, I should be making 6% every year on my money. So it's 11% already. So if I do that math, then I need to make $550,000 in 5 years for this investment to make sense for me as an investor. Okay. Now, if I sell the house back to him, okay, I do my calculation and say, bro, I'll buy this house and I'll sell it back for you for $1.55 million. You have to pay me back the full payment in 5 years. I don't think there's a Sharia compliance issue here, right, Sheikh? But the issue here is for the guy, he'll compare this with the other banks.
So this is way more expensive.
This is way more expensive. Am I dumb to like 5 years to pay you 550,000, brother? I make that in 5 years. Am I going to pay you extra 550 plus the 1 million? It doesn't make sense. Okay, where's the Bank of America next door?
And the joke is, one of the important caveats you mentioned here about all the scenarios you have to contemplate is that if you're thinking about you're investing your money into this house or into this agreement, that's because you're tying up capital.
Yeah.
Banks are not tying up capital. They're inventing new capital.
Exactly.
So you can't compete. This is why when people say, how do I make a Sharia model? Bro, you can't compete with money printing.
Such a profound point.
Actually, sorry, can I counter this point?
Yeah, go.
So the question is, what is the solution?
Yeah.
And let's jump on Sheikh Muawiyah's boat for a second. If you want, exactly, but this is exactly the point.
Just have a t-shirt.
So brother Mustafa wants a loan now. And I know for a fact that if I give out a loan, I'm going to lose out to inflation. I don't lend him fiat money. I lend him a Bitcoin. Go do with it what you want. But when it comes time to pay me back, you pay me back a Bitcoin.
That'd be a suicide, though.
That would be. But that's his decision to make at the end. I
know. I let my brother some money in Bitcoin.
Right.
There's one brother he borrowed some money. He says, "Bro, can I borrow some money?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's cool, but I haven't got fiat. I've only got Bitcoin." He goes, "Yeah, that's cool. It's only a couple of months. I said, cool. But I warn you, from my understanding of the charts, we are at the bottom of this cycle."
Yeah.
It's
only going up from here.
I literally said, I pointed, this is, I expected this to be the bottom. So make sure it's quick here. Long story short, it wasn't quick. And he's in pain at the moment.
He's still paying off.
But he's in pain at the moment, I'm saying.
Because he still can't return it back because Bitcoin is going up. Your fiat is going down. I can't catch up fast enough, right?
Yeah.
The other alternative, use gold. I'll give you an ounce of gold. When you pay me back,
gold is a bit option.
You pay me back an ounce of gold. So in terms of volatility, yes, gold would be better. But the point is, you do commodity-based lending as opposed to cash-based lending. And that's how you prevent yourself from losing out.
Can you say that? Can you just explain that in layman's terms? Commodity-based lending.
So you don't lend fiat money for fiat money. You lend a commodity and you return the commodity.
You're confident with its value.
Yeah.
As in, if I give you 100 grams of gold, I'm happy 10 years later to get back the 100. I'm happy to
But gold is not a
grams.
commodity, it's a currency. Yeah?
No, I mean, so I understand what you're talking about from an Islamic perspective. Traditionally and historically, gold has been a currency, but gold also serves as a commodity. Right?
Is
something that has
okay, I see your point.
Something that has
this is the hedge against inflation.
So Bitcoin has a deflationary mechanism. Gold has an anti-inflationary mechanism.
Okay, makes sense.
And because of that, you're saving yourself from the harm of inflation, and you're still getting the ajr, right? Because the goal behind this is
makes sense.
I want to get the ajr,
but you can't profit off of it.
But I don't want to lose out on the value of it.
But you can't profit off it.
And you're not profiting off it.
You're not
profiting. One interesting
but who's going to do this? I'm just trying to think of how people's problems
but I'm saying this is a problem with Islamic finance. So conventional Islamic finance right now, they've come up with what they call commodity Murabaha. That if a business needs liquidity, they'll come up with a pseudo contract of here's like some palm olive tree or whatever. We'll sell it on an open. I'm going to give it to you. You're going to sell it on the open market, and that's how you get your cash. Like really,
I'm sure you have to explain.
And we're not going to because you can't make sense of it.
You can't make sense of it.
Because eventually we're going to criminalize. We'll criminalize the space. We'll be
basically, they're setting up a whole. They could be isn't it? What it's called? Basically, you've introduced this olive grove somewhere that doesn't really exist in the real world, but you've
on paper we've created this transaction just so we can create liquidity, and then when you pay me back, you're paying me back like 150,000.
It's like ashab al-sabt.
The problem with this discussion is you literally criminalize the space, right?
Yeah, you have to remember one thing as well. There's I don't know if you know, there's a guy called Simon Dixon.
No.
He's a Bitcoiner. He became Muslim recently, a few years ago. I think one of his parents is Jewish, one of them is Christian. He became Muslim. So he's he has experience of all the angles. And he tried to set up a bank, asset-backed, 100% covered bank in the UK. Spoke to the Bank of England. I want to have a bank that is not fractional reserve, it's full reserve. As in, it would effectively be halal. It wasn't Muslim at the time, but it would effectively be halal because he was a gold bug. Yeah. And he said basically they agreed to the model on the condition that his bank is underneath their bank. So it would essentially be a fully reserved bank functioning within a fractional reserve bank.
Yeah.
Which basically means it's still fractionally reserved.
Yeah.
Because his assets are held in a fractional reserve bank. Basically, there's no escaping fractional reserve. So what I'm saying is, Islamic banks.
Okay, so then how do you get out the system?
Bitcoin, bro. No, I mean, I'm seriously.
On the theoretical level, he's right. On a practical level, it's very difficult.
The fiat.
So how do you
do it as in personally, Sheikh, or business-wise?
both? I think my point is there are Muslims that Allah barik are like ultimately just comes down to wealth, isn't it? Just making money. Like what's the hack?
That's like the hack to do what exactly?
I'm saying you have a house here, Allah barik.
Yes.
Like, how do you do it?
The hack is what Sheikh mentioned, and we have mentioned in multiple podcasts. First, you have to understand your primary residence is not an asset. It's we all have our, let's say, guilty pleasures. For me, I don't care about watches. I don't care about rides. I don't care about anything, but I need, alhamdulillah.
So did you say, I don't care about brides?
No. Like a
rides.
Rides.
I heard brides. But maybe just you sitting next to Imran, maybe that's why I thought of that.
We have to go back to the discussion prior to podcast to understand the joke. But anyway, Sheikh, subhanAllah. So yeah, I don't care about cars. Everybody has their preferences, indulgence. So you have to understand that buying a house is not an asset.
Yeah.
Now you think you have to go at it knowing you're buying a liability.
Yeah.
You're paying full cash for the liability, and it is a liability. And you're still doing it.
And I think also, I think it's really important. I think I mentioned in a podcast that I did a few years back, is that, as I said before, property is the product of the banks, which means banks are incentivized to convince you need to own a home. And I believe personally that you don't need to own your home. You can own a home and you can turn that into an asset that's generating revenue for you, and you can live where you want on rent. As in, you don't have to live exactly where you own. You can own multiple properties in places.
But you need to be able to be flexible. If you're not flexible, renting is a nightmare.
I'm saying that one I'm trying to address here is that some people have in their mindset that whatever they do in life, at some point, I must have a home. And it's possible that might be for you.
But I think
it's not a default.
But like part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs is that you need a residence that is your own, right? So I think that's where they made the equation.
No, the residence that you own, I don't think that's a need. I think having a place that you can live in is a need, but the fact that you own it is not necessarily a need.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but I'm saying the framing of it is that you need a residence, and what this means is you need to own your residence for security purposes. That you should not feel secure until you own your residence, right? And that's how the framing has worked. But also back to the discussion over here, where theoretically renting is okay, but you have to be able to be flexible, man. Like as you increase in number of kids, as you agree as you increase in old age, you're not going to be as mobile anymore, right? So I think at some point it should be part of the discussion. But sorry for interrupting. The last point I'll conclude with, again, I think oftentimes you focus so much on the physical monetary discussion. There has to be more increase in dua for rizq and barakah in the rizq. There has to be a two-pronged approach to this. You can't just hustle harder and budget and save. There has to be, oh Allah, increase me in my rizq, oh Allah, bless me in my rizq. And only then will you get out of your debt-based mindset. And, what's the opposite of that I'm thinking of? When you have a very minimalist mindset, you always think everything is small, as opposed to Allah's... No,
scarcity mindset.
A scarcity-based mindset. You have that scarcity-based mindset to an abundance-based mindset, right? That beautiful hadith of the Prophet ﷺ when he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that if all of the jinn and all of the mankind were to ask me and I was to grant them, it would not diminish from my kingdom except that which a needle diminishes from an ocean, right? That's how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. So we have to seek from Allah, right? So it has to be this two-pronged approach that if you're just focusing on the hustle culture, you're not going to get anywhere. Focus on the hustle culture, learn how to budget and save, and also seek from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost.
Just to share an example, right, of someone I know who's recently done something like similar to this. This brother's been going through a very financial, a big financial test. He set up a business. He was selling thobes, like these Moroccan thobes. It was phenomenal, but he got them outsourced from Morocco. He just kept flipping it. His third batch of stock, they completely destroyed it, and he had put most of his money into it. So then, subhanAllah, you got into a very difficult situation, very tough situation. SubhanAllah, since then Allah tested him. His baby daughter died as well. I went through a big trial. This brother, may Allah reward him, wallah, he's, just pleased with Allah's qadr. Wherever he goes, pleased with Allah's qadr. Not going to do haram. Not going to do anything haram with Allah's permission, tawfiq. SubhanAllah, he got the opportunity. He met a brother in his Qur'an class. These things, you know how we were talking yesterday? Like Allah does things. Yeah. It's designed. No. Like there's even the kuffar now. They say you speak to Warren Buffett, Hormozy, these guys. They say luck. Like they attribute so much of the success to luck. Yeah. It's not luck. It's the qadr of Allah Azza wa Jal. He met a brother who's like 19. This brother's like in his late 20s. This a 19-year-old kid. He does Airbnb, and he's like, I've got crazy capital. I need someone to manage the properties for me. And the landlords don't take me seriously because I look like a kid. So you're trustworthy, brother. We do Qur'an together. He said, you get me a house in Knightsbridge. Because in Knightsbridge, the money that we'll make will, we can go clear. So this brother, mashallah, he saw this opportunity. He spent the whole summer, as you said, this is the kind of guy you invest in. Cold calling, landlord after landlord, visiting taking multiple deals all the way to the end, only for it to just completely collapse in his face. Until finally, with Allah's tawfiq, he got a landlord. Allahu Akbar. He got the contract, done up the whole house, alhamdulillah. And now in 3 to 6 months, he's going to be moving here because the cash flow that one place will generate, he's now able to move to a place where the cost of living is lower. And then this one property that he's managing is just allowing him and his partner to live in a different country and make profit and put money into another house. So the point is that these type of things, they exist. And these are not anomalies, by the way. Yeah. Like we're surrounded by guys who do these type of things. I think you have to have that type of mindset, right?
Right?
I think this kind of also just it just brings us back full circle to what we discussed at the beginning. That those who have the wealth, it's a responsibility for them to go and say, hey, look, let me help you. Maybe not necessarily let me give you money to buy a house because inflation is going to kill me. And it's just a house at the end of the day. It's a liability, but find ways to help people just, create more wealth. Maybe you have funds, you invest in someone and things compound and so on and so forth. So I think that's more of a 100% effective solution.
And last point from my side on this is you only buy something that you can afford. It's just simple as that.
Yeah.
It's like the discussion, you don't sign up for something that you cannot afford in the next few years. It cannot be something ridiculous. So for example, the first villa I bought here, just to give an example, my money was tied up in the US. And so I only had 25% that I had right now. So directly, we made a Sharia-compliant agreement with the developer, Muslim developer, that in 1 year, I'll pay the remaining 75% of the money. Here is my 25% large deposit, and we shared the title deed, 25/75. And for the duration of 12 months, we calculated whatever the market rent is yearly. I'm going to pay 75% of it because you own 75% of the house. So completely like halal, Sharia-compliant agreement. He knows who I am. He knows my background. I'm also confident that I can pay the 75% in 1 year. So it's okay for me to sign up on this debt. So you just have to be wise in what you do. And if you're in circles like that, there are brothers who can do business with you, make some profit and, alleviate you from your situation as well.
And that's a musharaka contract, right?
That's a musharaka.
I never got a chance to talk about it, but that is literally the musharaka contract.
Can you break it down for us?
So basically you'll have two people that go into a venture together and they'll have joint ownership. And based upon the portions that they've put in, that's how much ownership of the product they have. Now, in order to utilize this product, the majority shareholder allows the benefit to the minority shareholder in exchange for rent being paid to them. So for example, the house over here, you have $1 million house, 80% ownership, 20% ownership. The 20% owner is going to pay rent on the 80% that they're utilizing and benefiting from to the 80% owner. And this is the rent component. Now, over time, if they want to purchase this product from them, whatever the value of the property is, let's just say $1 million, then $800,000 is remaining for them to purchase it. They have to pay that $800,000 to purchase it. And as they purchase percentage shares of it, the amount of rent they pay also decreases. So as they own, let's just say 50-50, their rent has now decreased and their ownership has increased.
So the rent is going...
One caveat he mentioned, what I want to draw everyone's attention to is that you mentioned about the deed, that he had the 70 and you had a 75, you had 25. That's so important because like in the UK, the way that some of the banks structure it, is that during the whole duration that you're making the payment, your name is not even on the deeds.
Yeah, they don't have the title. Yeah.
Which reveals what's really happening.
There's no
musharaka here.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they'll
So
share
this is
the
a real
profit,
owner.
they'll share the loss. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the reason why, here's a caveat. If I put my name on the deed, they can't foreclose.
Yeah.
They can't just sell it without your permission because you own part of it. They want to have permission to take it from you if they need to.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's what it means by musharaka. It means that you are joint owners, meaning that I actually own part of it. You can't just take it off me.
So I want to take this discussion to the concept of waqf, right?
Yeah.
Can we create a waqf to help Muslims with regards to, like, as in the whole point of this waqf is that the money that it generates is given towards those that need housing?
Let's share a conversation that Sam and I had in the car.
Uh-huh.
How do we create Sharia-compliant affordable housing?
Uh-huh.
So in Western countries, a lot of it is government sanctioned and the government gives a lot of grants and bursaries and they subsidize the costs for the housing. And that's how they create affordable housing. To replicate something like that, we would have to create an endowment that subsidizes the housing over here. And then with that, a person that does not have a high level of income can actually afford to pay rent or to buy a house based upon the subsidy that they receive from the waqf. So yes, it can definitely be done, but it takes vision, it takes capital, it takes longevity.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to this economic system that we have in the West, right, you said it's built upon riba,
Yeah.
right? What would an Islamic economy look like?
What would,
But, and the context behind this question is that obviously we live in a capitalist society, right? And the other extreme is obviously socialist or communist. What's Islam's position on these two?
I think what's important to recognize is that before socialism, before capitalism, for hundreds of thousands of years, we had mankind existing. As in, people have this, especially the West.
But was that not, someone may argue, capitalism?
No. So what I'm
Like, you
saying
had
is
these feudal lords that
before
owned
Adam
all the
Smith.
land, and then you had peasants.
Huh?
Like, you had these feudal lords that owned all the land.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what I'm
peasants.
saying is that they would like to frame it to you that there's this thing called capitalism where Adam Smith brought it back the first time and blah, blah, blah. But put a pin on that moment for a second. If that was the birth of capitalism, as they describe it, what were they doing before that? Not talking about Europe, because Europe, they had feudal system or not, but what about the rest of the world? What about in Islam? What did they do? They just did normal trade.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just remove the isms and just go back to reality, we have people who have needs and have money, for example, value, and want to acquire the things that they want and have an agreement. All Islam says is that in that mu'amala, here's some guidelines of how you do so in the most fairest manner.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And we shouldn't overcomplicate this, the holiday of models that it has to be this ism and that ism and this book on that book. It's just basically a framework of fairness. Number one, the one we all know about is no riba. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're profiting from someone else's loss. Someone hasn't got, and that's somehow a reason for you to earn money because they haven't got. And the more they don't have, the more you capitalize on that. That's essentially the model. Same thing with gambling. Gambling is this person. I mean, who does gamble really? Those who are desperate for a win. So you're capitalizing on the fact that this person is desperate. So there's lots of these models. All of the models that Islam prohibits specifically, it's so clear and obvious to everyone, Muslim or non-Muslim, that it's oppressive.
Mm-hmm. May I share an opposite perspective?
Go for it.
So my perspective is, just like in every Islamic science, categorizations were developed for the sake of understanding those sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in economics, that's eventually what happened as well. So they developed capitalism, socialism, Marxism, communism, all of this stuff. Now, from an Islamic economic lens, because our understanding of economics is purely secular and Western, we've been forced to embrace these frameworks. Now, imposing upon Islam is not the correct thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
But what we can say is that the closest thing that a secular framework comes to an Islamic economy would be something like compassionate capitalism, where you have capitalistic values, but through a lens of compassion, where it is anti-riba, it is anti-oppressive. You know, we care about the weak, we care about
charity.
the cat. We spend on, it's institutionalized in our model, right? Whereas in pure capitalism, charity is not institutionalized.
Mm-hmm.
So on that frame then, so what would make it, as in if you accept the word capitalism, what would make it compassionate? What would be the things that you would tweak that make it compassionate?
So anti-riba, and institutionalized charity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me push back on that just a little bit. One of the reasons why I don't, I remember people talk, especially with Bitcoiners or Muslim Bitcoiners, talk about Austrian economics and that kind of stuff. And I push back on that because fundamentally, one of the biggest differences between capitalism and socialism / communism is the position they take towards property rights. So capitalism idea is that if I earn and own something, I have rights to do with it as I see fit. Whereas socialism has, especially in the extreme cap with communism, basically they remove the right to own productive assets. You can own some things, but not things that are used for production. So the means of production, they call it.
So everything's waqf.
Almost like everything's waqf. It's like everything's waqf.
Yeah.
Whereas Islam's approach, I would say, because it preceded that anyway, is that you own things that Allah has given you permission to own in a limited capacity. And if you look at the history of capitalism, the way I framed it before, the history of capitalism, you have to look at where it came from. It came from feudalism, where there was no option where those who owned property were the ones who had money. And if you didn't have property, you didn't have anything. You were literally a serf on the land. And essentially, Adam Smith saw that, I would say, I put forward the proposal that he saw that and essentially wanted to extend ownership to others. So it's not just those who own property, it's those who have capital instead. It's remove of it those who have money from property to those who have the capital. But the model was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
The guy who had the factory, he was essentially the same as like the feudal lord.
Yeah.
And now you had the workers who were essentially like the guys who were the peasants on the land. And then Karl Marx was another type of additivist, looking back at that and thought, actually, wait, why is it in the hands of the capital, which put in the hands of the government? So it's actually just a different framing of the same, different version of the same thing. Where they'll say Islam is based very simple. You have as much money as you like. But all we're saying to you is that there's huquq. Wife has rights over you. Your family has rights over you. Your siblings have rights over you. The poor have rights over you.
Exactly.
The community have rights over you. So it's not like you have ultimate ownership. You have limited ownership. And so you can almost say, and that's why I say it's not even the same frame. It's not even the frame of this owns that one day, manipulate and take control of others. No, you can do any trade you want to own. You can own whatever you want to own. But that's still limited. I mean, look at the story of Hind, when we went to Messenger of Allah and complaining of her husband, saying, he's not giving me what I need. He says, take your needs then. Because that is her haqq. She didn't steal it. That is her haqq. So I had this debate a lot of these non-Muslim capitalists. We talk about this and I always...
But hold on. I think part of that issue, before people run with this and wives start listening to this and like, my husband is my haqq, and they start taking it from their husbands, that was the process on performing qada.
Yeah.
Right? And that needs to be made clear. Yeah. It's not like,
go to a judge.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
No, I'm just giving the disclaimer here so that women don't go and start implementing it themselves.
Like Steve taking his card out.
And they're like, Sheikh Muawiyah told me to do this.
Taking his Bitcoin.
No, but
take his Bitcoin.
Yeah, don't do that. No, but on a serious, if a woman has been seriously neglected,
she can take her rights 100%. But again, that was the Prophet ﷺ performing qada.
Judgment.
Right? So if you're being deprived of your rights, ideally go to the resource that can help you get your rights first.
The judge.
Yeah.
Islamic judge.
Yes. Yeah.
No. Yes.
Yeah. And my only caveat, the only reason I'm not that I disagree with you.
Yeah.
It's the practicality of it. He's not feeding me. I'm going to be starving or my kids need food or not. I'm not having to go to the Sharia council to make a form.
I know you hate the term masalih and mafasid. I know you hate that term. He is triggered. My guy is triggered by this term. But the mafsada over here, if she goes there and takes his stuff and the husband is vindictive and he reports her to the police, Allah, she's done, man. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, here's a surah. She needs to buy something. She goes to his wallet, takes the money.
Different episode. We've given our disclaimer. Seek your rights properly. Now continue. Bismillah.
Yeah. So
you can book a call, Sheikh Muawiyah. You make sure you pay him in Bitcoin.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is that we should model ourselves off the Islamic values, and a lot of these questions will be answered without knowing about is ism or that ism. It's very simple. I can own what I like. I can spend what I like. But I just have to recognize that there's huquq, number one. That's the first thing. There are others who have rights. And also very important, which is often forgotten. There is, I just forgot the word. So I was often forgotten. there are opportunity costs. I could buy the iPhone, or I could give sadaqah. Yawm al-Qiyamah, I didn't give sadaqah, I bought the iPhone. I've lost opportunity on what I could have gotten reward. That is something that we as Muslims have that factor in our head, is that I could buy the bling bling. Well, I lose I mean, one example, my own personal example. I used to love Tesla before I hated Elon. And I thought, yeah, I want to get the Model X.
It's super aligned, guy.
I wanted to get that Model X because you had the wing doors, and I was like, yeah, get the Model X. Yeah, man, I want to get it. So I went to the website and I looked at it, and I put all the bits and bobs in it on the chat, and I looked at it and I thought, you know what? I was shocked. I thought, wait, I can afford this. It's only about 500 quid a month. That's easy. I was really getting excited. I thought to myself, wow, I can actually get the car I want. And then subhanAllah, Allah drew me back. I thought, you know what? Before I do anything, let me see how much it costs outright. I pressed the other tab. We get the full price. £120,000. I thought, no, absolute way.
Yeah.
I could build a masjid with that. And that one sentence taught us of, why would I ever buy a car that can crash and it's gone rather than build a masjid? I would never do that. Because opportunity costs. That is the difference between, I would say, a Muslim and non-Muslim. Yeah. Because we actually recognize as akhirah.
So the greater challenge over here is the Islamization of secular sciences. It becomes very problematic because Islam has its own frameworks.
Yes.
And we're trying to get it to fit within the secular framework.
Yes.
That's not possible. Yeah. And I agree. In an ideal situation, we have to create our own frameworks and present them as they are. 100%.
And one last point, because I think I'm going to give only some bad news to people.
Don't, man.
Hopefully you disagree with me.
Inshallah.
Hopefully you disagree with me.
Inshallah.
But here's my bad news. I don't believe at this stage, I could be wrong, that the Islamic model is necessarily more profitable. But I do believe it's more moral and better.
No, I completely agree with that.
I'm saying that because I think people, they want to seek for an Islamic equivalent that will make me as much.
Never. Because you have opportunity costs, it will never be as profitable, right?
Just so I understand.
But it'll be more profitable in the akhirah.
The key thing to consider here, though, the Islamic model will still make you more profit than you need. I think the issue here is that people are compounding on their profits and they're hoarding onto wealth that their children, their children's children, their children's children's children will never be able to exhaust.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
The reason I said it was because sometimes people, they see, like actually you mentioned earlier on, if a Muslim wants to do an Islamic mortgage and look at the cost and the percentage who need to charge, that's not competitive to a bank. And then people think, okay, why even take the Islamic mortgage then? Because it's not better for me. I need the Islamic version that is equal. Because they expect that to be the case. And I say, but that's not necessarily the case though.
For sure.
Because it's, as an example, it's far more quicker to earn money through scamming people, stealing.
Yeah, I see your point.
Mugging people, selling drugs. There's way more profit involved with that.
I mean, you're giving 2.5% away every year anyway, right? So you're...
Yeah. I'm saying that just because for us as Muslims, the gauge isn't how much profit you can make, it's how much good you can do for yourself and others.
But the point that I'm mentioning is that you could still make crazy amounts of profit.
Yes.
It's just that these guys make so much profit through their riba, the next
in this life,
200-300 years, they won't be able to exhaust it if they like $1 trillion pay package that Elon Musk got. Like that's why your generations don't need that for the next 1,000 years.
The thing is,
you know what I'm saying?
But remember, the question is at what cost? He earned $1 trillion, but who had to die almost, literally?
Right. For him to do that.
Who had to die and suffer for him to get that $1 trillion?
What I'm getting is that you can still make crazy amounts of profits on the Islamic model, but it's just not excessive profits.
Yeah, don't expect it to be like that.
To the point where you're hoarding wealth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because you're paying zakat, there's no riba.
Yeah.
You're putting money into awqaf, you're putting money into waqt.
You know what? Sad to say, I would have loved to discuss the issue of zakah, the model of zakah as a solution for all of our problems as well. That would be a good discussion.
That would be a good episode, inshallah.
Inshallah.
We have to conclude here, guys. I think this has been a very interesting conversation. And I think now, with the work that you guys are doing, alhamdulillah, with this podcast, the whole idea is that this becomes the norm. You know, before there'd be like the one discussion on Islamic finance that will come out every 6 months to 12 months. You know, this is...
How do people reach out to Sheikh Navaid then?
Oh, all the links are below, inshallah ta'ala.
For sure.
And Sheikh's working on a book, The Billionaire Who Went to Jannah.
make dua that Allah grants me tawfiq. Yes.
And 40 hadith on emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And obviously remember, if anyone, sister needs to get some money from my husband, come to me, not him, innit? I get the right fatwa.
I know. So I think that's the difference. I'll do the fatwa, you do the qada. There we go.
That's it. Bless you and on you in this life and the next. With that said, guys, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.